Heartbreaking, single dad's cancer test weight turns viral after 3 little girls beg him, "Pretend you're our dad." The waiting room at Memorial Cancer Center fell silent as Mark Donovan collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his weathered face. 3 little girls, complete strangers just hours before, wrapped their small arms around his shoulders as he received the call that would change everything. "You're cancer-free, Mr. Donovan," the voice on the other end announced. The girls squealed with delight, jumping up and down, their colorful ribbons bouncing in the air. "Our pretend daddy is going to be okay," they shouted to everyone in the waiting room, who erupted in applause. None of them knew that morning how their lives would intertwine, or that their chance encounter would touch millions of hearts across the world. If this story has touched your heart already, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories of hope and human connection like Mark's journey. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Mark Donovan hadn't slept in 3 days. At 42, he never expected to be sitting in an oncologist's waiting room, clutching a folder containing scans that had revealed a suspicious mass in his chest. The past month had been a blur of preliminary tests, worried phone calls, and nights spent staring at the ceiling of his modest 2-bedroom apartment, wondering what would happen to his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, if the worst came to pass. "Daddy, can I have another juice box?" Emma asked, tugging at his sleeve. Her innocent face showed no signs of understanding the gravity of why they were here. Mark had told her they were just doing special doctor checkups to make sure he stayed healthy and strong. "Of course, sweetheart," he replied, forcing a smile as he reached into their small cooler bag. Since his wife Sarah's death 3 years ago in a car accident, it had been just the two of them against the world. Mark had rearranged his entire life to be both mother and father to Emma, switching from construction management to freelance architectural drafting so he could work from home, learning to braid hair, attending tea parties, and somehow keeping their little family afloat financially and emotionally. The cancer scare had blindsided him completely. A routine physical had led to a chest X-ray, which led to more tests, and now here they were, waiting for the final verdict. Stage 3 or Stage 4? Treatable or terminal? The questions hammered in his mind like relentless nails. Across the waiting room sat a woman with 3 young girls who appeared to be sisters, ages approximately 4, 6, and 8. The oldest kept glancing at Emma's coloring book with interest while the younger 2 fidgeted restlessly in their chairs. Their mother looked exhausted, her eyes rimmed with dark circles as she thumbed through paperwork. "Girls, please sit still," she whispered, her voice strained. Aunt Melissa's appointment shouldn't be much longer. The middle child, a girl with curly brown hair and a missing front tooth, slid off her chair and wandered toward Mark and Emma. Her mother started to call her back, but Mark waved a friendly hand. "It's okay," he said. "Emma could use a friend right now." The little girl introduced herself as Lily. "What are you coloring?" she asked Emma, who brightened immediately at the prospect of showing off her artwork. "It's a unicorn family," Emma explained, pointing to the various colorful creatures she had created. "This one is the daddy unicorn. He's extra strong and magical." Lily's eyes widened. "Can I color too?" Before long, all 3 sisters had migrated to Emma's side of the waiting room. Their mother, who introduced herself as Rebecca, apologized profusely. "Please don't worry," Mark assured her. "It's nice to see Emma smiling. We've had a rough few weeks." Rebecca nodded understandingly. "We're here for my sister. Stage 4 breast cancer. The girls don't fully understand, but they know something's wrong. Their father." She hesitated, lowering her voice, "He left us last year." The girls are still processing that abandonment while trying to understand why their favorite aunt is so sick. Mark felt a pang of recognition in his chest that had nothing to do with his potential diagnosis. "I'm a single parent too," he shared. Emma's mother passed away 3 years ago. The oldest of Rebecca's daughters, who had introduced herself as Sophia, looked up from the coloring book. "You're a daddy all by yourself?" Just like our mommy is a mommy all by herself? Mark nodded, surprised by the directness of the child's question. But you're a boy, Daddy, said the youngest girl, Mia, with 4-year-old logic. We don't have one of those anymore. An uncomfortable silence fell over the adults, but before either could respond, a nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Donovan? The doctor will see you now. Mark's heart plummeted to his stomach. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading. He stood on shaky legs, reaching for Emma's hand. Can we come too? Lily asked suddenly. Please. We'll be super quiet. Lily, that's not appropriate, Rebecca began, but Mark saw something in the little girl's eyes, a desperate need to help, to be part of something hopeful rather than sad. Actually, Mark said slowly, I wouldn't mind the company. If it's okay with your mom, of course. Rebecca hesitated, then nodded. If you're sure. As they walked down the sterile hallway, Mia slipped her tiny hand into Mark's free one. You can pretend you're our dad too, she whispered. Just for today. And we'll pretend we're your extra daughters. Mark felt his throat tighten with emotion. I'd be honored, he managed to say. In the consultation room, the doctor raised an eyebrow at the unusual group but didn't comment. As he prepared to deliver the news, the three sisters positioned themselves protectively around Mark and Emma, as if their presence could somehow shield them from bad news. Mr. Donovan, the doctor began, I've reviewed all your test results thoroughly. Mark felt his heart pounding so hard he was sure everyone in the room could hear it. Emma squeezed his hand tightly, sensing his tension. The mass we identified is not malignant, the doctor continued. It's a benign growth that we should monitor, but it's not cancer. The relief that flooded through Mark was so intense that for a moment he couldn't speak. Emma, not fully understanding but recognizing good news from her father's expression, began to cheer. The three sisters joined in immediately, jumping up and down. Our pretend daddy doesn't have cancer. Sophia announced loudly. He's going to be okay, added Lily. Mia climbed directly into Mark's lap and hugged him fiercely. See? We brought you good luck. The doctor smiled, clearly moved by the scene unfolding in his office. I don't know who these young ladies are, Mr. Donovan, but they seem to have adopted you. When they returned to the waiting room, Rebecca took one look at their faces and burst into tears of relief. A nurse nearby, touched by the scene, asked if she could take a photo of the impromptu family. Mark agreed without thinking much of it. That evening, the nurse posted the photo to her social media with a brief description of what she had witnessed. By morning, the post had been shared thousands of times. By the following day, it had reached millions. The story resonated deeply, a single father facing a health crisis, 3 fatherless girls, adopting him in his moment of need, the beautiful coincidence of good news arriving in the presence of such innocent compassion. News outlets picked up the story, calling it the pretend daddy miracle. Mark was stunned by the attention. His phone rang constantly with interview requests. Emma couldn't understand why people at school suddenly knew who her father was. But amid the chaos, something beautiful happened. Mark and Rebecca began talking regularly, arranging playdates for the girls who had formed an instant bond. 2 weeks after their waiting room encounter, Mark invited Rebecca and her daughters to join them for a picnic in the park. As the 4 girls raced around the playground together, Rebecca confided in Mark. Sophia asked me last night if you could be their real daddy someday, she said, blushing slightly. I told her that's not how it works, but... She paused, meeting his eyes. I didn't completely dismiss the idea. Mark felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a flutter of possibility, of hope beyond just survival. I wouldn't dismiss it either, he admitted. 6 months later, Mark launched a foundation called Pretend You're Our Dad, dedicated to supporting single parents facing medical crises. The viral attention had brought donations and volunteers, allowing him to create a network of support that he wished he'd had during his own health scare. Rebecca became the foundation's co-director, bringing her experience as both a nurse and a single mother to the organization. Their first initiative provided childcare services at cancer treatment centers, ensuring no parent had to choose between medical care and their children's needs. The four girls, now inseparable friends who considered themselves sisters, became the faces of the foundation, appearing in heartwarming videos that explained in child-friendly terms how families could help each other through difficult times. 1 year to the day after their waiting room encounter, Mark took Rebecca and all four girls to the same park where they'd had their first picnic. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the playground, he gathered them all together. "I have something important to ask all of you," he said nervously. He turned to the girls first. "Sophia, Lily, and Mia, I wanted to know if you would allow me to stop being your pretend dad." The girls' faces fell momentarily until he continued, "And become your real dad instead?" As understanding dawned on their faces, he turned to Rebecca, dropping to one knee and revealing a simple but elegant ring. "And Rebecca, would you make me the happiest man alive by becoming my wife?" Through tears of joy, Rebecca nodded. The girls erupted in cheers, tackling Mark in a group hug that sent them all tumbling onto the grass, laughing. Emma, now 9, looked at her father with wise eyes. "Mom would be happy, wouldn't she, Dad? That we found more people to love?" Mark pulled his daughter close, his heart full. "She would be overjoyed, sweetheart. She always said love multiplies, it never divides." Their wedding 6 months later became another viral sensation, not because they sought attention, but because the nurse who had originally shared their story was invited as a special guest. The photo of Mark surrounded by 4 flower girls in matching dresses, all beaming with uncontained joy, spread across the internet with the caption, "Pretend dad becomes real dad, the waiting room miracle comes full circle." Today, the Pretend You're Our Dad Foundation operates in 50 states, has helped over 10,000 families, and continues to grow. Mark and Rebecca often speak at conferences about how a moment of kindness in a hospital waiting room changed not only their lives but the lives of countless others facing similar struggles. "Sometimes the family you need finds you in the most unexpected places," Mark always says at the end of his speeches. And sometimes, pretending to be something wonderful is the first step to making it real. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories of hope, connection, and the beautiful ways humans come together during life's most challenging moments. Remember, compassion costs nothing but can change everything, just as it did for Mark, Rebecca, and their 4 daughters who found family in a waiting room when they needed it most.